Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Town of Waukesha Town Board and Joint Plan Commission meeting on November 8th, 2018, beginning at 6:31. I'd like to call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Madam Clerk, could you call the roll?
Chairman Merrick?
Present.
Supervisor Fisher?
Here.
Supervisor Durr?
Here.
Supervisor Wolf?
Here.
Supervisor Radke?
Here.
Commissioner Webb?
Here.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Here.
Commissioner Stigler?
Here.
Commissioner Miller?
Here.
Commissioner Flanagan?
Here.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, have we met the open meetings law?
Yes, we have.
And we can begin with citizens' comments. Going once? Going twice? And we can move on to meeting minutes for September 13, 2018. From the Plan Commission, Commissioner Miller and Commissioner Flanagan, you were not here, so you should abstain from that. Is there a motion? And a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And on to the minute and abstentions. I'm sorry. It would be Flanagan and Miller.
Oh, you were for the first one.
You were for the first one. You won't be shortly. And motion from the town board for approval of meeting minutes of September 13, 18.
Will we accept the minutes for September 13th?
And a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to the meeting minutes for October 11, 2018. Commissioner Webb, you were not here for that one. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? And abstentions? It'd be you, Brian.
Yes.
Motion carries. On to possible action by the town board. Is there a motion for the meeting minutes of October 11, 2018?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second.
Consistent. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to 8, discussion possible action on ordinance 2018-006 for text and zoning change 13.2.15 sub C sub 12 for off-premise signs for Jeffrey Panosian. This was approved at the town board and plan commission on 10/11, and this is just for approval of the ordinance. Is there a motion from the Plan Commission?
Do we have any background that?
I don't have any additional information. It's the exact language that was approved at the last Plan Commission meeting.
Thank you. Motion from the Plan Commission? Flanagan and Miller. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. And from the town board, is there a motion?
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to accept ordinance 2018-06.
And a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. On to 9, discussion possible action on ordinance 2018-0-07 for Tim Larson rezone for the petitioner. This is for the shops at Sunset. Location is South 30 West 24896 Sunset Drive. Tax key is WAKT 13359420002. This was approved by the Plan Commission and Town Board on September 13. Is there a motion from the Plan Commission? And was it Commissioner Miller? in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to action by the town board. Is there a motion for approval?
Move we accept the ordinance number 2018-07.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
In the agenda, it says it's for one tax key ending in 02, but the ordinance calls for two tax keys ending in 02 and 03.
I can fix
Is
that.
there a reason it needs to include the second one, since it has nothing to do with this ordinance?
Counselor, if it wasn't agendized in that fashion, can we still take action?
Yes, I mean, I don't think anyone would be misled. Kathy, or planner, which is correct? Two taxi numbers or one?
It's both. It also includes the senior housing to the north. The whole thing had conditional zoning on it. The Plan Commission and Board approved the rezone for the conditional zoning on both parcels.
Thank you.
I'll add it, I'll make that adjustment to the ordinance.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion carries. On to 10, accessory building variance for the petitioner Robert Heikkinen at W224 South 1531 Sultandale, tax keys WAKT 1297017. This is for recommendation from the Plan Commission and possible action by the board. Sean, do you have anything on this?
I guess I'll just give a little background information. The petitioner is requesting a waiver from the accessory building provisions of the code per section 13-2-10E7. There was an existing 9-foot by 12-foot accessory building that existed for many years in the drainage easement, which was essentially a public right-of-way based on the way it was platted. They were cited by the town for that violation and a number of other violations, and the court ordered them to move the shed onto their property. And with that being done, it still doesn't meet the setback requirements, the 20-foot offset requirements from the west lot line, the south lot line, or the 10-foot offset from the home. So the court instructed them to request a waiver from the Plan Commission and Board to see if they could remedy that. So the way it's placed right now, the property is zoned R3. It's 7 feet from the west lot line, 4 feet from the side, or the south lot line, and currently 24 feet from the existing home. As I mentioned, there's nowhere to put it so it wouldn't violate at least one of the offsets. So right now it's violating the side lot line and the rear lot line. The code allows a waiver to be granted. The town board, upon recommendation from the Plan Commission, shall make a determination which shall include consideration but not necessarily affirmative action on the following: whether the request is inconsistent or contradictory to the purpose, spirit, and intent of the ordinance, whether the request violates the spirit or general intent of the chapter, whether the request is contrary to public health, safety, and welfare, whether it's hazardous, harmful, noxious, offensive, or a nuisance by reason of noise, dust, smoke, traffic congestion, odor, or other similar factors, whether for any other reason the request will cause substantial adverse effect on the property values and general desirability of the neighborhood, and whether the request is incompatible with the surrounding land uses. I will add that this subdivision was platted in 1953. These are relatively small lots all around in the subdivision. It's the White House subdivision. Though it doesn't necessarily impact what's being asked, there are a number of residences and accessory buildings in the neighborhood that are within the offsets from the property lines, and then accessory structures as well. So just a bit of a background. So if the Plan Commission chooses to approve the waiver, I have included a series of conditions, including the waiver request.
Thank you. Is the petitioner here this evening? Good evening. Come on up. Good evening, Mr. Heikkinen. Did you put the shed up, or had it been there when you purchased the home, or?
From historically speaking, I think on your records, on your your tax assessor has a document that actually stated it was since 1985. It is
Okay.
pre-existing essentially when I bought it.
Okay.
And through the deed warranty through Shore West, I was trying to resolve the issue, like, how can the warranty or a deed stating that you have no issues. I had no issue with it. And apparently he still doesn't have any issues with it. Shore West doesn't have any issues with it. So I'm going down the line saying, what are you charging a warranty of thousands of dollars to tell me it's okay, but then hence this happens and, everything snowballed. So it's a shed.
Understood. Any questions for the petitioner and or planner? Is there a motion from the Plan Commission?
Motion to approve subject to the condition.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Any other discussion?
Need to have the minutes reflect that you're making the findings that are required, that you are making the findings as have to be determined in order to grant the variance, and they're laid, or the modification, and they're laid out in the staff report. So if we include that as part of the motion, that subject to making the necessary findings as spelled out in the staff report, the maker of the motion and the secretary agree to that language, it would be helpful.
Yes.
Thank you.
Is there anything else, Mr. Planner? Sean, anything else?
No, nothing else.
That'll cover it. I know you were looking, so we want to make sure that issue is always in the motion, correct?
Correct.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And from the town board, is there a motion?
I'll move we accept the recommendation of Plan Commission.
And a second?
I'll second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to site plan of operation for Stacy Peterson of Con Oils, West 241, South 4145 Pine Howell Court. Tax key is WAKT 138 199 9030. This is for discussion and possible action and a recommendation from the Plan Commission to the Town Board. Planner Malarkey.
Thank you. The petitioner currently operates on the property. Con Oils, it's a warehousing and distribution facility of nutritional supplements. It also includes some light packaging and assembly. The existing site plan and plan of operation was approved in 2013. They are requesting to amend the plan of operation to convert the facility to an indoor hemp growing and hemp oil processing facility. The warehouse portion of the building would be used for the growing and processing, and then the office part of the facility would be used for research and development. What's going on? The current operation will be moved off-site to another facility altogether, so this site will be solely used for the hemp growing and processing, and then the office use. There's also an existing warehouse building, like a mini storage building, that would continue to be used by Con Oils, and then also open to the public for use as well. The petitioner has obtained both an industrial hemp grower and industrial hemp processor license from DATCAP, from the state, as part of the state's pilot program. So the way it works is that the state grants a license through the pilot program. The license does not expire, but every year the growers and processors must re-register annually. The permits expire on December 31st each year. Registration through the program requires a research plan, a background check, reporting, record keeping, and an inspection testing through the state. All plants that are grown are limited to 0.3% THC levels and must be checked by a state inspector prior to harvest. Their license that they acquired limits them to less than 30 acres of hemp, and the processor license allows not only processing of their own hemp, but hemp from outside as well. At the time of writing the staff report, when I originally wrote it, the state had issued 254 grower licenses and 99 processor licenses as part of the pilot program. My specific comments In terms of zoning, the property is zoned I-1 Limited Industrial District. I-1 zoning permits commercial greenhouses. It permits or allows processing, fabrication, packaging, and assembly of products from oils and textiles, and testing and research facilities. It's my opinion that the use is consistent with I-1 zoning. The plan of operation that they submitted, as I mentioned, includes the industrial hemp, the indoor industrial hemp and hemp oil processing facility, and then the existing 20 mini storage units which exist. Hours of operation are proposed from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and then 8 a.m. to noon on Friday. Number of employees, 5 would be located on site. Company vehicles would include a forklift and a pickup truck. And then all their shipping is primarily done through USPS, FedEx, UPS, etc. Occasionally they would have a piece of equipment that would be delivered by semi, but that would not be a regular occurrence. No changes are proposed to the existing site plan or the building exterior. In terms of parking, they're required to have a total of 10 parking spaces, which exist on site. In terms of law enforcement and security, although it's not required, if requested, the state will share the location and contact information of the operation with local law enforcement upon request. I think this might be a good idea to ensure that the Sheriff's Department is aware of the legal operation. Although the hemp plants will be grown and processed are not marijuana plants, additional security should be considered, and the petitioner is proposing there's existing cameras on site that are in place. They will also configure those cameras so that they're visible from their other operation as well. So not only at this site, but their other site as well, so that 24 hours a day they can be viewed and keep an eye on things. So if the Plan Commission chooses to approve the site plan of operation request, I have prepared a series of conditions, including everything I mentioned in the site plan of operation, that they'll be in compliance with all Wisconsin Department of Ag, Trade, and Consumer Protection licensing, registration, reporting, inspection, and other requirements for the industrial hemp and processing operation, that the petitioner shall request that DATCAP share location and contact information of the operation with Waukesha County Sheriff's Department, and the rest are standard conditions.
Thank you. The petitioner here this evening. Good evening. Come on up. Anything you wish to add?
Oh, gee. No, not at this point in time. We would anticipate that if all goes well, that we would between the current building and the storage sheds, that we might put an additional greenhouse in, but we would come back for a permit for that,
sure,
if possible.
Questions for the petitioner and or planner? In that case, how about a motion from the board? I'm sorry, from the Plan Commission? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
That's not me. Sorry.
Motion carries.
Stepped on your feet.
Thank you.
And on to the board. Is there a motion from the board?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. On to number 12, adjournment of the Plan Commission. Is there a motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Plan Commission is adjourned. You guys did not earn your keep tonight. Thank you. He's going to need more time with you. I guess we can get moving on with the balance of the board meeting. 13, review of Attorney Macy's opinions requested by Supervisor Fisher pertaining to the administrator's position and possible conflicts. I think, take it away, Attorney Macy.
Well, there's two issues, the conflicts one and then I believe the org chart one. They're sort of tied together. There was a letter I issued.
Can you put on your mic, please?
I'm sorry. There were two issues presented that I was asked to opine on. One was whether there was a conflict between the administrator and the town clerk, treasurer, town clerk, or treasurer positions. And that letter, and the second issue was on the org chart and why the fire commission was removed from the org chart. We did research the town administrator position. We've laid out in our letter of November 2nd the reasons why we do not believe that there is a conflict. I think as I indicate in the letter, this is extremely common. Many communities, when they create the position of administrator, deliberately, even if they've had a separate clerk treasurer, combine them. It's very typical that the administrator wants to have control. He or she wants to have control of all three positions. And, you know, we've even had clerk treasurers who have been appointed who became the deputy clerk treasurer when the administrator position was created because they wanted to combine the three positions. So I've laid out for you that issue. Mr. Chairman, do you want me to stop and see if there's any questions on that one before we go to the second one, or should I continue?
Sure. Questions?
I don't necessarily have any questions, but I put some, if you want to take it now or you can finish it, but I put together here something I want to pass out to simply go through and try to clarify some of the issues at hand. Do you want me to do it at this time, or
sure,
would you like him to finish? Okay. What do we got? 6. First of all, I appreciate Attorney Macy addressing the issues that I raised, and I want to walk through this. If you would put a little bit of time and effort into it, and clarifying my question was about combining the positions into one position. So I'm going to walk through this. The first page you're looking at there is entitled Clerk Treasurer, and there are 6 bullet points underneath that. That position has existed in the town of Waukesha for many years. The position is a town officer, and I've emphasized the word officer, and that derives from Wisconsin Stat 60.30 entitled Election, Appointment of Town Officers and General Provisions. Position is an appointed position, and that is authority for making that an appointed versus an elected position is found in Wisconsin Stat 60.301E. The clerk treasurer position is a combined position, and authority for combining those positions, as was done many years ago, is found in Wisconsin Stat 60.305. The duties of the town clerk are prescribed by law at Wisconsin Stat 60.33, and the duties of the town treasurer are prescribed by law at Wisconsin Stat 60.34. I'm not wandering off that, but I think Kathy is very familiar with that, and that's part of the recodification process that we're taking some of that out of the ordinance and referring to state statute. That's first part. Anybody disagree with any part of that? Then I'll move on. The second.
Just for clarification.
Sure.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing with any of this rubbish.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, okay.
Are you finished?
I'm done.
All right. Well, move on from there then. Administrator.
Can I comment on it?
What's that? Sure.
Okay. So I don't want anyone to mistake my silence for agreement. I mean,
Okay.
you quoted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Wisconsin statutes. You handed this out 2 minutes ago. There's no way that I could
Okay. That's fair.
Consume this and neither agree nor disagree, probably without consulting with an attorney.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I have a comment,
Sure.
Supervisor.
Sure.
I guess I don't understand the point. I mean, that's great that you want to tell us about specific Wisconsin statutes, but what's the point of this?
Well,
Is
if
there
you'll
a
allow me
reason?
to move on, I think it'll become apparent.
Well, you're at
So
the
then-
first page, and I'm counting about 8 of them here. I'd rather not wait till the end to see if it's
Well, I'll-
worth my time.
I think it's built on a foundation. I'll go through it quickly. May I proceed, Mr. Chairman? Second page,
I prefer
administrator.
you didn't, but go ahead.
What's that?
I'd prefer you didn't, but go ahead, because it's just a bunch of rubbish. You've got an opinion from the
Well,
attorney
I would-
that says many communities do it, and it's perfectly legal. So it's rubbish, but go ahead.
I would prefer that I would. So the second page, administrator, that position was created by the town board during the town board meeting on October 25th, 2018. That is referred to as ordinance 2018-05. That position is a town employee, and I'm distinguishing that from town officer. Wisconsin Stat 60.37 covers town employees. Wisconsin Stat 60.37, parens 3, covers the town administrator. The final bullet on that one is the town board, and this is a quote, may create the position of town administrator and establish the qualifications, compensation, and terms of employment for the position. That again is derived from Wisconsin Stat 60.37.3, town administrator. And I simply point out there that during the meeting of the town board on October 25th, 2018, the town board did not establish, we did deal with the qualifications, but did not establish the compensation or terms of employment for the position. Continues on the next page, and it says the town administrator may be employed to serve at the pleasure of the town board, at the pleasure of the town board, or for a fixed term. And that comes from Wisconsin Stat 60.373, again, town administrator. And I noted during the meeting of the town board on October 25th, the provisions in ordinance 2018-05 pertaining to a fixed term were stricken. I referred to that as the Durham Amendment, Mike, because I think you asked that that be stricken. And I said, therefore, it's reasonable to conclude that the administrator will serve at the pleasure of the town board. Next page, under the administrator, clerk, treasurer, all of those put together, that position was first proposed by Clerk Treasurer Nicholas during a closed meeting of the town board on April 26, 2018. I think I'm correct, that date should be confirmed. The position was included on the amended agenda of the meeting of the town board of October 25th at item number 14 as follows: discussion and possible action to combine the administrator position with the clerk's treasurer's position. And when item 14 came up on the agenda, Chairman Merrick announced, quote, regarding item 14, we will not be combining the administrator position with the clerk treasurer position, so no action is needed. He offered no explanation for his decision, and I simply note on that I could have asked for an explanation, but I chose not to.
And I want to note into the record, I do not agree, because this is sprung on us like you love to do. You love to spring things on us in the 9th hour and drop this stuff in our lap. You've probably had this for a week, and you drop this garbage in our lap at the 9th hour, never give anybody a chance to review anything, and this is your grandstand. Please continue your grandstand.
I will do that, Chairman Merrick. I didn't put this on the agenda.
If I could make a point of order.
Sure.
The agenda item is a review of Attorney Macy's opinions.
And I'm going through that.
I don't see where that's in his opinions at all.
I'm coming right to it.
What are these, 8 sheets from you that don't coincide with his opinion?
But they
I don't know how that follows with our.
But they do,
with our agenda item.
and hang with me, and they do. So I noted on that, I could have asked for an explanation, but I chose not to, because I would have opposed any attempt to combine the positions for several reasons. And this goes to the question addressed to Attorney Macy. If you go to the clerk treasurer, next sheet, indicated during the closed meeting of the board on April 26th, the members of the town board and clerk treasurer Nicholas negotiated a 3-year employment contract with her as follows. That has a starting date, an ending date, and the compensation levels. I didn't have that at hand, and I haven't been working on this for weeks. I put this together today. I think that's a matter of fact. So now to get to the point you're anxious to get to, Supervisor Radke. Oh, I will. Next one is entitled, What Now? And I indicate on that, a person appointed to the office of town clerk or town treasurer, or to the combined office of town clerk and town treasurer, which we have now, shall serve for a term not to exceed 3 years that is set by the town board. The person may be reappointed and may be dismissed by the board only for causes defined in section 17.001. That comes from Wisconsin Stat 60.301 F. And I indicated there, reiterating that Kathy Nicholas has a 3-year employment contract. She is a town officer, and again, she may be dismissed for cause, but she is under contract to the town. The next bullet is on October 25th, 2018, the town board appointed her to be the administrator, which is a town employee. And I will invite in a minute Attorney Macy to comment on that, because he may have a different opinion on that, but is a town employee, and we did so without addressing the important issues of compensation in terms of employment. So based again on the Durr Amendment, she will serve at the pleasure of the town board as the town administrator. And the last page I indicate there is the administrator per Wisconsin statutes. She's not a town officer. Any effort to deem her such as defined in the statutes is wrong. Not only is it wrong, but if she were a town officer, she'd be precluded from being paid for her work, either as the administrator or as the clerk treasurer. And the reason for that is, except, and I've quoted the statute here, except for offices combined under section 60.305, no town may compensate a town officer for acting in more than one office of the town at the same time. And that's derived from Wisconsin Stat 60.323, compensation when acting in more than one official capacity. So the final summary on that is what now is, unless she's willing to work as an administrator without compensation, the town board is going to have to negotiate compensation in terms of employment with her, apart from her 3-year employment contract to serve as a clerk treasurer. And thank you all for bearing with me.
So I'm sorry, I didn't follow 99% of that, but you're saying that Attorney Macy's opinions here are invalid? Is that what I'm understanding?
No, I didn't say that, but I guess I'll pose a question to him. Do you agree with me, Attorney Macy, that the position of town administrator is a town employee as defined by Wisconsin state statutes?
To answer that question, I might have to do a little bit of research, because we've given several, and I'm going to answer your question. We've given a number of seminars on the issue of employee versus an officer, and the statutes aren't always consistent. But that being said, I think you properly quoted it. Now, I can cut to the quick if I may. Having 38 years of experience, I've seen this issue, and I think the issue is correct. You have a clerk, in this case, clerk treasurer, and they're subject to certain duties. They're an officer, and you've appointed for 3 years, and you can't remove other than costs. And you don't need a contract for that. That's all laid out in the statutes, okay?
Which is true, but we do.
You have a contract?
We do indeed.
Okay.
Yes, it was executed consented to in closed session back in April, and probably in fairness to you, if you need to have time to take a look at it, you probably ought to see that document.
Yeah.
So we do have a contract.
Yeah. But I think we'd all agree you don't have to have a contract, because you did the research, Mr. Fisher. Well, it adds, but the contract has to be consistent with the state law.
My understanding, reading of that is it is to be a contract, the duration to be determined by the town board, not to exceed 3 years. The clerk treasurer appointed position is a contract. My reading of it is not employment at will, that is a contract, that as opposed to the employee position of town administrator.
Well, and I'm going to get to the other half of the issue, and that's the administrator. So I'm sorry I misspoke. I didn't know you had a contract. I wasn't necessarily involved. I probably was.
And that's fair. That's why we're here to talk tonight.
But I don't think that's an issue, because whether the clerk treasurer has a contract, there's statutes, and even if the contract said they were an employee at will, the statute would override the contract, and they would be appointed, for a term.
It's a moot point. We have a contract, and I guess ask any other people on the town board, or maybe Kathy can get a copy of it. We entered into a contract with her, which I believe has dates certain. It has compensation provisions. That was done in closed session in April of this year.
Nobody's arguing whether we have a contract.
I'm trying to move on. I'm trying to move on from that point. I'm just trying to. Okay.
Sure.
So
I'm simply
we
filling
have statutes, and you
Attorney
pointed out
Macy
the
in on that.
statute.
So-
Okay. So you now want to create and have created the position of administrator, and I think, and I have a very similar situation in another community where they're trying to decide whether to keep the administrator, clerk, treasurer position or split it. And their analysis and my analysis is I think right similar to yours. It's separate. They do not. I don't believe that community has a contract for the administrator. If they remove that person as administrator, that person stays as the clerk treasurer for the term of the. So I'm going the opposite way, just to tell you that I'm dealing with this issue in another community, and I have had to tell them, and this person knows this and has told them that if you want to take away my town administrator duties, that's fine, and I'll just stay as the clerk treasurer, because my salary is for clerk treasurer, and that's been established, and I've got a 3-year term, and I'll stay as clerk treasurer. So the summary that you have made is correct. By appointing her, she's, I think, an employee at will as the administrator, and she has no additional compensation until such is approved. I don't disagree with looking at it without studying it, by just looking at it, I think you're correct. And we can just ask Kathy if that's her understanding, that at this point, she's an employee at will as the town administrator, and there's no additional compensation until such time as it's approved.
That's correct.
So,
agree.
bottom line, thank you. So you and I are apparently, and do take your time, please go back to, I'm not trying to spring things on people.
I don't even think we need to spend any more time.
But just let me finish.
I agree
Let me
in
finish.
the
So-
general premise, and Kathy just agreed.
So we got 3 people who are on the same page. Thank you.
So let's just see if the town board has the other town board members have any questions or need any additional research. The point of the matter is there are really 3 positions. You've combined the clerk treasurer, so we can talk as if there's 2 positions. And there's totally different rules. That's the only thing that's being pointed out here, is one's an employee, one's an officer. One has a contract for the officer position and is subject to state statutes. The administrator, there are no state statutes other than the one that's quoted, I believe, and so it's an employee position. It's at will, because if you don't have a contract, you're an at-will employee, and Kathy's admitted she knows she's an at-will employee as the administrator, and she has no additional compensation for that additional duties until such time as it's approved.
Correct.
She's admitted to that, and I guess I just need to see if any of the points well taken, and I think we can move on unless there's questions. We get it in the record now, so it's not an issue if there ever gets to be issues.
Thank you very much.
Are you done?
So I will move on to the second
No,
point.
You keep saying, let me finish. I just want to make sure you're done.
I said thank you very much to Attorney Macy. Okay.
So
I'm going to move on to the next issue, if you don't mind.
Please.
This one is much simpler, and I have to tell you that it's sort of it happened in sort of an odd way. On October 21st, and I had that email up here. And I apologize. I want to get the email sequence up here properly, so because you're all familiar with it, you all received it, and I think if I explain it, maybe then there won't be any. It'll resolve it. Don't know why I hit this button. I can probably do it without the emails, but okay, found it. Thank you for the patience. On October 21st, you all received, and I was copied, I believe, this was Sunday, October 21st at 4:06 p.m. Town board members, I plan on finalizing the packet tomorrow, but wanted to get this information over to you for your review in draft form. Attached 2 organizational charts, a job description insertion, draft ordinance, red line version of last month's job description, and a draft of the amended agenda. I've sent the ordinance over to Attorney Macy for review. Please note the ordinance creates the position. The agenda has an item on it that would allow the board to combine the positions if it's the pleasure of the board, and I have a draft contract written tomorrow and reviewed. Please let me know if you'd like any additional information prior to the meeting concerning the administrator position. I read that only to refresh your recollection, and attached to that were numerous documents. Kathy, did I say that correctly?
Correct.
Okay, I was going through my emails late that night, and well, not that late, but that evening, and at 7:55, I wrote this back to Kathy, and you wouldn't be aware of this because it was just between Kathy and I. And I say, Kathy, I only glanced at the attachment sent. I'd recommend, though, that the Fire Commission reference on the organizational chart be removed, not only because I think it's wrongly stated, comma, the Fire Commission does not report to the fire chief, but none of the other town entities, i.e. Plan Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, etc., are shown. Please let me know if I need to review the attachments in detail. So I glanced at the attachments at 7:55 on a Sunday night, and I immediately wrote a note off to Kathy saying, I glanced at your documents. I'm not reviewing any of them in great detail, but this, what appears to me to be an obvious error, I just want to bring to your attention. So I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I meant by that email. There was no agenda, there was no nothing. She wrote me back this in the morning and said, I will remove the Fire Commission from the org chart, and I'm looking for you to review the ordinance. Now, to her credit, I had not seen it because I was working down my emails. At 3:29 on that same Sunday, she sent me the ordinance saying, review the ordinance. So on Monday morning, she was politely saying, Macy, I told you not to look at all of this, just review the ordinance. But she was very polite about it. And so then, you know, we reviewed the ordinance and we sent back the ordinance, and that's the whole story. And then I wrote the opinion letter explaining why I asked that the Fire Commission be removed. I think the Fire Commission does the arrow. Even if the arrow had gone the other way, I would have made the same comment because the fire chief doesn't report to the Fire Commission, and certainly the Fire Commission does not report to the fire chief. And so that's the whole story. It was a passing comment at 7:55 on a Sunday night saying, I think you got a glaring error here. I just want to bring it to your attention before somebody calls you on it. That's what I did, and I apologize if it caused great angst.
It did not.
I don't think you need to apologize for anything. Thank you very much for the explanation. I picked up on that. I too got Kathy's email communication at 4:06 Sunday afternoon. I didn't see that, or I didn't look at it until Monday morning. Identified some questions and concerns which I raised. I guess whether the arrow was the right way or the wrong way, I would just say going forward, I note that in ordinance, the ordinance that we approved in the administrator's duties number 18 is to develop and update the organizational structure. I think that's synonymous with an org chart of the town, inclusive of chain authority and responsibilities approved by the town board. We don't need to dive too deep into the pool tonight, but I think there are some parts and pieces that are missing to that organizational structure. I can identify some of those we have before. I personally think in that organizational structure, so people better understand how we work so we don't have disagreements, I think it should include the Fire Commission. I think it should include.
That's on the agenda. And
Let me just, it
no,
is.
It's not on the agenda.
It is. No, I'm going to continue.
A review of this
No,
document.
because we're talking about the organizational chart and that the Fire Commission was taken off of it. I believe the Fire Commission belongs on there and a number of other things, and I would encourage that
well,
we
I'm
get
going to
back
encourage
to
you that it's not on the agenda. So what we're going to do is I'll encourage you to draw up your own org chart, get it on the agenda, and bring it before the board, and then the 5 members of the board can vote on it. But we're not discussing the org chart because it's not part of the agenda. So if you're done, we can move on.
It is. No, I'll finish. It is
no,
to the extent.
No, you won't finish because it's not on the agenda.
It is because we're talking about why fire chief, why fire commission was taken off of the organizational chart, Mr. Chairman. Clerk Nicholas, I'd be happy to work with you. Would you like to work with me on cleaning up the organizational chart? I'd be happy. Thank you.
Have we beat this horse to death? You done, Mr. Fisher?
Are you done, Chairman Merrick?
You're the one that asked for this nonsense, not me. Are you done?
I'm done.
Then
Are
we
you
can
done?
move on. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to
I just
I'm
have
sorry.
one more comment. You know, Supervisor Fisher, you more than anyone has taken both residents, people making presentations to the board, and your fellow board members to task for bringing things in, not only on the day of the meeting, but even after the packet has been put together on the previous Friday. You have done that consistently, and you have done it often. And while you say you prepared this today, I'm sure it's been on your mind for quite some time as you have passion in this issue. You didn't bring this piece of paper in and lay it in front of us an hour ago. You didn't have it here 15 minutes ago when I got here laying at my desk to give anyone an opportunity to look at it. You chose very specifically to bring it here tonight when you have consistently taken exception not only with our residents and our business owners, but other people on this board who have brought information, and your consistent responses have been that there is no way that you could possibly review this information because it was just brought to you today, or it was just brought to you 2 days ago, or it was just brought to you X, whatever the day after the packet has been put together. So that is the definition of springing it on somebody, and that is what you have done when you have been the most ardent opponent of anyone else doing that. And now I am finished.
Okay, well, I'd like to respond to that. I was finished until you brought that up. Here's the perspective on this for me. This issue first came about on April 26th of this year. That's almost 6 months ago. Okay?
I'm talking about this document right here.
I'm talking about that.
This
just
document right
just
here.
Stay with me, okay?
I'm not going to stay with you.
You're not going to listen to what I have to say?
We can't stray from the subject. We've got an agenda item and we need to follow it.
No.
It's as simple as that.
Well,
That's the agenda item. It's the opinion of Attorney Macy. Not
I
your
understand
ramblings
that,
on
but
about
Supervisor
not
Durr
wanting independent
decided to
position.
make a personal attack on me. I think I should have the opportunity to
It's
explain.
not a personal attack. It's a fact. It's a simple fact.
I did not personally attack you.
That's my point of view.
Excellent. 14, City of Waukesha Prairie Road sidewalk to be done in 2019. This is for discussion on the town board and possible action by the town board. Is there a motion for discussion?
I'll make a motion that we discuss this sidewalk.
And a second.
I'll second.
And Attorney Macy, do you have some input on this?
Well, I believe that I, pursuant to your direction, reviewed the item and put together a draft letter for your consideration as to how I recommend we proceed. Has everyone received that letter, Madam Clerk?
No, I didn't see it either.
I certainly hope you're not going to spring something on us at the last moment.
I think we'll just have to pass it.
Why did I know that?
How ironic.
I'm certainly not trying to spring anything on you.
The second time I heard that tonight.
We can agendize it in December.
Yeah, maybe
Chairman.
we should just pass it. I did do the research. I don't think that I want to go in great detail, but I prepared a draft letter. Let me just see if it might go out for something.
That's fine.
I have a proposed letter. We will provide it to you that we believe should be sent to the city.
Thank you. Can we?
How about if we table this? Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we table this item until the first meeting in December.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to considering authorizing a progress payment number 1 for the 2018 road program. Is there a motion for discussion?
I'll move for a discussion.
And a second.
I'll second.
This, So I spoke with, in your packet you have a request for authorization of the progress payment for Payne and Dolan. I spoke with Engineer Janelli. The payment amount is for $239,779.91. It's been he wanted to make note that the Moyer Wave paving project has been complete, and that we should be expecting a check from Rukert and Milky for their portion of the project to be about $7,000. The check will be deposited back into the capital fund, miscellaneous revenue 400-00-48110. The rest of the paving, since we've put this packet out, has now been complete, but there are a couple of punch list items left to clean up. I expect to have the final payment requests at the next meeting, December 13th, for your approval.
Madam Clerk, I think you just answered the one question I had, and that was going to be, has Engineer Janelli inspected the work?
Yes, he has.
Thank you. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
And a second.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to 16, award of the DPW building. Discussion and possible action by the board. Is there a motion for discussion?
It's got to be a roll call vote. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, I'm sorry. We got to back up. This needs to be a roll call vote on 15.
Oh, yes.
Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Supervisor Fisher?
Aye.
Supervisor Durr?
Aye.
Supervisor Wolf?
Aye.
Supervisor Radke?
Aye.
Chairman Merrick?
Aye. On to 16. Is there a motion for discussion?
I'll make a motion to discuss the RFPs that we received for the DPW building.
And a second.
Second.
So a couple of weeks ago, we put out an RFP for a building for our DPW group. We received 3 responses that I think you're all aware of. They're also in your packet. The first was from Badgerland Buildings in the amount of $445,000. We received another from the Reese Group in the amount of $345,000, and we received another from Morton Buildings in the amount of $287,942. I guess at this point, my recommendation to the town board, and I would make a motion to direct the town planner, the town engineer, and the town administrator to work with Morton Buildings to develop an application for a site plan of operation with presentation to the town planning commission for recommendation to the town board, and following the approval by the town board to award the contract for the DPW building to Morton Builders in the amount not to exceed $300,000 in a contract form that would be acceptable to the town attorney.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Discussion.
I have a number of questions or concerns, and they significantly might be answered. They significantly are about the fact that we have no site plan, so we don't know the location of the building. We don't have any building elevation, so that, I guess, ties into your motion to require that be done. I guess other things that I think are needed with that are basically a civil engineering drawing that shows drainage, establishes the height of the finished floor of the building. What I see missing on some of this are a lot of open questions. If the heating system is supposed to be powered, if you will, by natural gas, where the natural gas service is coming from, at whose expense. I'm concerned, and I think this needs to be addressed with the site plan. The existing salt storage structure that we have in the back of the property there was constructed before your time, but it was done without a plan commission approval. And that's of a particular concern because we require that of all of our residents and our constituents. We broke our own rules. The other thing is it presently has a side yard offset violation. I know to his credit, Supervisor Wolf a couple of years ago helped coordinate getting a very nice survey of the site property. I don't know whether you've seen that or not, or other people, but basically part of the proposal for putting this building up was to continue the use of that salt storage structure, at least for the short term. I think we need to address the issue that that was done without Plan Commission approval, and it's currently a side yard offset violation. I think other stuff in this can come in a later, I guess at some other point in time, but I didn't see anything in the proposal about emergency generator, emergency power, whether that building is going to be tied into that. Maybe this question can be answered. I didn't see anything in there about a performance and labor and material payment bonds. Is that included in the bid? Attorney Macy at some point in time might want to weigh in on whether we need to have that. I'm concerned about, significantly concerned about disparities in the three proposals because there were no drawings to bid from. I know we kind of copied over a proposal that we got from another vendor back last summer, but basically we don't have specifications. There's an awful lot of disparity in those prices. I mean, the Badgerland price is almost 55% higher than the low of the three. The average is almost 25% higher than the rest of it. My concern is, unless some of these things are resolved and we have some decent drawings and specifications, I think the town is going to be subject to an awful lot of exposure to additive change orders, conflicts. I mean, just picking a simple single thing out of this because there aren't drawings and specifications. I see the proposal from Morton Buildings refers to an estimated quantity of 1,300 tons of limestone fill, and the proposal from the Reese Group talks about 300 tons of bank run gravel. I mean, that's just one example. One bidder's got more than 4 times what somebody else does because we don't have drawings and specifications. So I guess I'll hold with some of the rest of it until we see some site plans, civil engineering drawings and that type of thing, but there are, I think, many concerns on this. It would be irresponsible to move ahead with this. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and Kathy, you might even have that, we had from Morton, the apparent low bidder, they made a proposal before we made this solicitation for what it's worth, and I think their previous proposal said they needed engineered civil drawings, and they were going to allow $45,000 for that. I mean, who is, I guess question proposal, who is to be preparing the drawings for submission? Are you expecting that Morton is going to do that, and are they doing that on their dime? Are they making a complete submittal to the town?
Well, let's see what the site plan of operation has to say.
Well, I'm saying, are they prepared, does somebody discuss that? Are they prepared to do that? Do they understand that they're going to be asked to do that? That's my question.
Well, right now, the motion on the table is to direct the town planner, the town engineer, and the town administrator to work with Morton Buildings to develop an application for a site plan operation. So
I understand. So Morton Buildings will be doing that work and doing it on their dime at no cost to the town.
Right now, we haven't laid out any money, and the recommendation is, in the motion, is if it receives town board approval, following the recommendation of the Planning Commission, in an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Okay, but let me try one more time. In order to, and maybe Sean, maybe you can jump in and help. This needs a good site plan. It needs drainage plans. We need exterior building elevations. We need all those kind of things. You're not doing that. The town engineer isn't doing that. I mean, the applicant has to do that, correct?
The first I started talking about this was this morning with Kathy. She called me, mentioned this would be on the agenda, asked if I could attend because there'd be questions about the process. I think the first thing we need to do is meet with Morton Buildings to determine what their capabilities are. I'm assuming they put buildings up all over the place. Different communities have different requirements. I'm assuming they have people that can draw a site plan. If they can't, Kathy asked me if our firm was willing to supplement where they may not be able to do that, or potentially Rupert Milky with Chris to supplement drawings if need be. In terms of cost and who pays for that, that's not something we talked about yet, but we were willing to help them out in terms of filling in the gaps in their capabilities if they were not able to do that. That's all we've talked about so far. I think we need to meet with them to figure out what they can and can't do.
I guess my suggestion would be, wouldn't it be better if this just came up this morning? We talked about springing things. Wouldn't it be better?
This didn't come up this morning.
Just let me finish.
This
May I finish?
I'm not going to let you say falsehoods. That's not true, Mr.
This
Fisher.
has been on the agenda the entire time that the packet has been put together last week.
May I continue?
As long as you tell the truth.
Well, I'm telling the truth. My question is, we've just heard this, who's paying to do this? I mean, Sean provided some insightful information. Are we going to end up having our town engineer, town planner, and that type of thing spend money and send bills to put together the site plan for this? I think that's a fair question.
I think we are. Yes.
Just like
What would you rather do? Have us hire an outside architect and an outside engineer and have them put the specifications together in such a fashion that the building is no longer $250,000 or $60,000, that it becomes a $700,000 or $800,000 building like we had before?
What I would prefer to do.
Or should we do a design build, which is the preferred method of building for anybody that's developing anything anymore?
In as much as you asked the question, Chairman Merrick, I'll answer. What we should do, whoever is going to put it together, we should have some site plans before this was even being put to bid. That's the answer to your question.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? We've got a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. On to 17, discussion of quorum rules and state statute 66-1001 sub 3 for discussion and possible action by the town board. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion for discussion of quorum rules and state stat 66-10013.
I'll second.
So we've kicked this around a couple of times. This goes back to accusations by Supervisor Fisher that this board multiple times involving a quorum and the state statute that's listed on the agenda acted illegally. He asked for a written opinion from Attorney Macy, and we received such. We discussed this a couple of times, most recently a month ago at our board meeting, and at that time he had not been able to produce any written documentation from a licensed attorney that the board had supporting his position that the board had acted illegally. I guess I would ask the question if he has anything more in writing that he'd like to add that shows that the board acted illegally.
I do not have anything at this time, but in fairness to you, I have reached out to other people and I'm waiting to hear back from them.
Okay, very good. Then I would ask that at minimum that we post our attorney's position that this board acted legally on both of those issues on our website, so that certainly the public knows that from the position of our attorney that this town and the taxpayers pay that what we did was legal. So that would be my motion. If we need a motion to post to the website, I don't know that we do.
I guess I would absolutely support putting Attorney Macy's letter on the town website, and my response to from several months ago. I have been always in favor of being completely public with that, so I would encourage that, both with regard to the quorum issue and with regard to 66.1013. I'm absolutely in support of that. Let the sun shine in, please.
But wait a minute, I want to clarify something. I think you said along with your interpretation of it. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes, I did respond to his letter. That's a public thing. I would ask that that all be put on the website. I'm totally in support of that.
No, we're going to put our legal representation's opinion on the website, not your non-attorney nonsense.
There's a motion on it, and that's what the motion is. You stated it correctly. So let's see if there's an amendment to the motion or whether there's.
Well, I started this with a motion to discuss this issue, so let me be clear and make a formal motion to post Attorney Macy's opinion on the quorum issue and state stat issue 66-10013 on our website.
And I will second.
Question, and when you say post, you're talking about.
We don't have a second. We don't have a second.
I'll
He
second
just
that.
seconded.
I thought I heard him say, is there a second? If he seconded it, that's fine, thank you.
Well, very good. All right, clarification. Are you saying post Attorney Macy's 2 letters? Is that what your motion says?
That's my motion.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Announce accounts payable in the amount of $288,472.46. Madam Clerk, is there a motion?
Move the
Gentlemen, is there a motion? Larry, and a second, please.
I'll second.
And Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Chairman Merrick,
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher,
Aye.
Supervisor Durr,
Aye.
Supervisor Radke,
Aye.
Supervisor Wolf.
Aye.
Yeah, motion carries. On to 19, announce closed session. You are hereby notified the town board of the town of Waukesha will convene in May upon duly made and seconded, acted upon by roll call vote as required under Wisconsin Stats 1985 sub 1 sub C and 1985 sub 1 sub G go into closed session. The purpose of the closed session is as follows: specifically to discuss noncompliance litigation on property owned by Joe Bilodeau, and to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or other performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibilities under 1985 sub 1 sub C, specifically relating to the administrator, fire chief, and fire inspector. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion to go into closed session.
And a
Second.
And Madam Clerk, a roll call vote.
Maybe I have a question, Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
Question?
Supervisor Durr,
Go ahead.
Attorney Macy, are you joining us?
If invited, I mean, it's.
I'd like to invite you. Thank you.
Okay. I'm certainly
Supervisor
here,
Durr,
at your service.
Aye.
Supervisor Fisher,
Aye.
Supervisor Radke,
Aye.
Supervisor Wolf,
Aye.
and Chairman Merrick.
Aye. We are in closed session. We'll be out as quickly as possible.
Yeah, I know. So that's why I didn't say anything, but just so you can look for it and send it out. No, I Oh, I think I'll be at every meeting from now on. What do you think, Mr. So you're not driving in tomorrow. You're going to get home before it starts to snow and stay put. Smart man. How's your daughter doing?
She's doing fantastic.
That's good.
Back to school,
Always nice to have good news.
back to school, she's driving, so all good. Yes, it's went as well as pretty well.
That's good. And like kids, they jump back quickly, right?
They do.
Unlike me.
It's incredible how fast they do.
Yeah. That's why I didn't say anything, Kathy, but I was like, oh my God.
You
What
gave
did
it to me
What
on
did I
Monday.
screw up?
Well, I didn't see it because I was kind of busy.
Yeah, and I'm just like, my head's spinning, like, am I losing it? Well, say no, but I don't think he meets any of the law. And Sean's going to be there to try to help you with that.
I was going to ask if you were
No, you'd have to ask Kathy or the chairman to send me. I asked, and they said no. That I'm not. You got to listen to the evidence. But what I've read so far, and I can only base it on what I've seen so far. I mean, he just wants a garage. He doesn't have any place to put it, and you don't have to have a right to it. You know, we'd all like. I'd like a boathouse at my place, but they won't let me have it. It's just so tough. It's just so tough when you guys haven't, and it's totally different than the way you used to do it with with modifications and waivers. There's a much lesser standard.
Oh, you're good.
That's why
That's why we have the meeting and made it easier for the others to get away with stuff.
The Plan Commission does the waivers and modifications now that you used to do,
Right.
which were what I would call the easy ones, where they were just asking for, but he can't meet any of them. He doesn't fall under the right to get the waiver and the modification, so he's going the next step.
That he had to put it too close to the road. I have an attack at it.
No, and you shouldn't. You should wait till you. I'm talking in generalities. That it's not, because I don't want to, you have to decide based on the evidence. But I just know that I'm not going to be there unless they change that. But, and of course, you could always listen and say, we're not going to decide tonight. We want Macy to be here to answer the legal questions. That's always a way to save money, and just adjourn it and say, we have legal questions, and I'll come in and do some training. And a lot of my boards, we do training before every zoning board of appeals, because we only have a zoning board of appeals every 2-3 years, and so we always do training, and then we do the hearing.
And we're all getting older, and our minds don't work as quick as they should, especially mine.
Yeah, well, I can. It's not only you. They said, where's the file on Prairie Sidewalk? And I'm going, I know I sent it, but let's just pass this, and we'll find out where it went.
Where'd it go?
I sent it during the election.
Oh, you poor thing, you.
I sent it at 4 o'clock on Monday, and so no one's seen it yet. Yeah, that's like verboten.
You don't do that the week before the election, let alone the day before the election.
I got scolded now in 2 communities.
You should know that.
That's why
I always just keep moving.
You gotta keep moving.
Literally and figuratively.
Papers for our Board of Appeals. This is the first time in over a year since we that. Because they've taken the easy ones, this is the, and the Plan Commission
If you drive I-80, I-80 wasn't there when we were there. I was actually moving to help build
Do that, catch up. Make little notes to yourself.
That's why I brought in,
2 sections of it. I was
from the very first time I became chairman, I brought in everything that we've talked about and how to proceed with the.
Yeah.
I had a 9-mile, 11-mile.
So the election went well.
The election is over, done, and put away.
Then I worked.
Well, got all the numbers balanced. And,
Numbers are good, everything. I really liked your time.
oh, thank
I
you.
went home at 9:30.
It's a little too summary, I think. Sandy scolded me, and I said, I have very few ties that go with the stripes, so I have to buy like light blue shirts. Everybody's into light blue shirts, not striped shirts.
Well, that's because on television, it's white. Picture ever on television.
Yeah, that's not good. He can't. He add 10 more pounds to me, and I'm really in big trouble. I'm bad. It's been bad enough. Well, I was on because I had breakfast with the governor on Tuesday, and I was on all the channels. It wasn't pretty.
Oh, on Tuesday you had breakfast?
At the
On
governor.
voting day?
Yeah.
Oh.
There were about 10 of us, 12 of us who were invited to have breakfast after they voted, and all the press was there. It was a huge press hearing.
Well, it was close.
Yeah.
We lost, but it was close.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
huge turnout. Waukesha County had its normal numbers, so
we were
it turned out. elections, more votes on this election than every other election other than the recount. Which I thought was an interesting stat.
It was.
So it's not like both parties didn't show up. I mean, usually you say, so-and-so didn't show up or so-and-so, I think just everybody showed up. Yeah, and it just, that's why it was close, but, you know. So, you know, sometimes the Republicans are mad and they don't show up. Sometimes the Democrats are mad and they don't show up.
Well,
This election,
everybody showed up.
everybody showed up. What was our percentage here? Do you remember?
Something 80%.
Yeah, that's what my summit was too.
In the papers at 59% for the whole county.
For the counties.
Yeah.
But I know Summit was 78 or 83%. I got a stat on that one. People call me and they ask me what was the number. You know, they call me and ask me all kinds of stuff. So I stayed up late running numbers, so I'm prepared Wednesday morning and I sent emails out to my board.
Just like presidential, we have long lines for re-registration.
Which is good. People should vote. We want people. You know, there was one article that came out, and I have to agree with this one. No matter what your politics are, Trump made the midterms important again. People did not vote midterms. And why was there always this big flip-flop? Because the people would be upset, the people in power wouldn't show up, and the people who weren't in power used the midterms as a chance to vote. And that's been our history. That's not what happened. And they are, some people grudgingly probably say, you know, it's really Trump that got people to vote because you don't like him or because you like him, but they all came to vote for the midterms. Our numbers were probably higher than the presidential in some cases. Not quite here. But I bet you Milwaukee and Madison, that's where the numbers were huge, huge. So we'll
summoned.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, wages, huh?
No, they're talking wages and stuff.
Oh, and, yeah.
So you had a garage fire, huh?
Sounds horrible. Don't you remember that? The one that
On
was
the
a
front
total loss?
page of the Freeman?
Was on the front page of the Freeman, yeah, back in
That was my
October.
building,
Oh.
our building, my husband's building. He was so depressed about it, because he did all the wiring up and down on the ladder, and he has no feeling in the bottom of his feet because he's got diabetes.
Oh, my.
But he had to look down every time he climbed up a step, you know.
Oh, yeah, make sure he's
put his
there.
weight-
I have to do that now, but it's not because of that, it's because my knees are giving me trouble.
Well, he's got knee
Yeah.
problems with it.
I'm not sure how much weight they'll support, so I kinda make sure I look down.
Yeah.
You heard that Ginsburg, the Supreme Court Justice, broke 3 ribs?
No, she just cracked 3 ribs.
Well, cracked 3 ribs,
Not broke. No, just
And
cracked.
they've had all kinds of people
Organ
volunteering
donors.
to donate ribs or any other body parts to keep her alive so that she doesn't die so that Trump can't appoint.
Absolutely.
I thought, oh my goodness, this is insane. Like they're gonna replace a rib? I don't think so.
No,
Um,
no.
So just be in pain for a while. That's about all they
Oh,
give you is
yeah.
give you a painkiller for pain. And then they tell you to breathe deep.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so you
Our
don't get pneumonia.
Our kids broke one of my ribs.
Yes.
We had a little one. Michael was about 3 or so. And they were wrestling. No, he'd have been about 6.
Yeah, he was
Yeah,
older.
about
yeah.
6. 6, 7. Anyway, that would be about 6 because we went to the train show.
Yeah, anyway. They
Anyway,
figured out how to cross his legs and then pull on it so
Yeah.
that they could roll him off the couch.
yeah, well, they had it
That was
on the
funny.
floor and our kids are, well, when Michael was born, they were 13 and 11. So you've got this big gap between Michael and the other 2. So the others are pretty much almost, well, Stephen's almost an adult. So the 3 of them have got me down on the floor. And
They rolled him off the couch.
yeah, and Stephen,
Had to step back
yeah,
away.
he got up to do something and Cindy was still helping Michael get Daddy down. And we heard this horrible crack.
Well, Michael jumped off the couch, I'm telling you.
And I'm like, that didn't sound good.
Because he was back in the back pushing
But,
it.
but it didn't
It
hurt.
didn't crack or anything. I mean,
No.
it didn't hurt.
And so
Not till
we
the
stopped.
next day.
Well, then, a day or 2 later,
We
we'd
went
gone to Chicago to this train show. Man, my chest was hurting, you know. I got in the swimming pool in the hotel, and that
That made
felt
it
pretty
feel
good.
good.
And then I got in the hot tub, and it kind of felt really good. And the next morning, Betty had to help me get out of bed. I couldn't hardly move. And when I got back, I went in, and they took x-rays, and then the girls had to get me off the table because I could not sit up at all. I'm laying there, and I can't move. And so they called me later, and they said, well, they've looked it over, and you've got a cracked rib. So what are we going to do about that? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. But you have to breathe deeper. You'll get
Pneumonia.
pneumonia. And I
Yeah,
said, it
sure.
kills me to breathe deep. Well, you got to do it anyway. So they gave me some pain pills to help me. Yeah, it was quite an experience.
They'll probably just come out and adjourn.
Oh, I know, that's what they always do.
But I have to ask Kathy if I have to come in to work in the morning and get the checks out.
Yes, Kathy, she's gotten,
Yeah.
done that for.
We need to know that so I can call my girlfriend so she can come over to.
Oh, sure.
Uh-huh.
You don't know what time I'm coming home, though.
Well,
Or if I'm
checks.
coming in, maybe Joan will do it.
Well, that's what we have to find out. I know why. I get stiff. There's no cushioning in these chairs. They look
Bring your
like,
own pad with you, remember.
yeah. But when she was in the car accident, I got her one of these ones you see that I call them an egg cushion.
As advertised on TV.
Yeah,
right, we are back in open session. Is there a motion regarding the administrator's position?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the board in closed session in regards to the town administrator position.
And a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And is there a motion on the non-compliance issue?
Yes, I move that we accept the recommendation discussed in closed session for the non-compliance.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion.
And a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.